Hello everyone, and welcome to this program for school board candidates. And first of all, we want to express congratulations to you for seeking a seat on your local Board of Education. And during this segment of this video program, we're going to try to give you some insight into school board service. And joining me to discuss that is Dr. Carter Ward, the Executive Director of the Missouri School Boards Association, and Jerry Lee, the current President of the Missouri School Boards Association and a school board member in Springfield. And gentlemen, thanks a lot for being with us. We appreciate it. Carter, first of all, why are we doing this program for school board candidates?
Well, when people make a determination or decision that they want to run for the local Board of Education, they may have a limited amount of perspective in terms of what's involved in being a school board member. And so the Missouri School Boards Association now for several years has offered this program each and every year for board candidates to really broaden their perspective, possibly, and give them a perspective not only what's going on in their local school district if they've been attending local board meetings or whatever, but also get a perspective of the job of school board member and what that entails.
Mm-hmm. And so during these programs, we will try to give some perspective on that, Carter, and some insight into school board service. But our candidates also need to know that should they be elected in April, they will have some additional training, won't they?
Absolutely. The statutes in the state of Missouri require that a newly elected school board member will receive 16 hours of in-service training, professional development, prior to the conclusion of their first year after being elected.
Mm-hmm. Jerry Lee, you've served on a school board for a while now. Why do you think school boards are important in our system of public education?
I would say two words: local control. I think any time you can have community control of your education system is just central to the whole democratic process. Accountability to the public, accountability to the stakeholders in the community is really, really important that we've got some local control of the education system in our community.
Carter, how would you answer that? Why are school boards important?
Well, I think Jerry's answered it just perfectly, actually, but it's about accountability. The public schools are funded by the public, and the governors of those schools, being the local citizenry, really keeps the professional staff on target, fulfilling what it is that the community wants to have happen in those public schools.
Jerry, how long have you been on your board now?
6 years.
6 years. And when you first were elected 6 years ago, what was the thing you had to learn first about school board service that you didn't know about?
One, that I didn't have to know everything about the school district as a board member. And the expectation, sometimes the expectation from the community was, as a board member, you should know everything that's going on in the district. I mean, that's not possible. And so, you're just one of 7 board members. And being knowledgeable about all the issues is just really difficult. And operating in a governance model of 7 board members and a superintendent, I mean, you really got to learn to work as a team collaboratively with the same goal in mind. And so that's one of the things some of us who have been community leaders before want to get things done and do things, and we do them as individuals. That's not the way it functions in a board, in a school board.
Was there a learning curve for you, Jerry, before you really felt comfortable as a participating member on the board?
Oh yeah, I would say it probably took me almost a year to really feel comfortable and knowledgeable to ask what I would consider, I thought, intelligent questions at the board table. I had lots of questions always, but when I really felt comfortable that I had a grasp of it and I kind of knew what questions needed to be asked.
Mm-hmm. What would you say was the most difficult thing to learn, Jerry? I know a lot of our school board members and candidates might say finance is one answer, but what would you say?
That was one of my answers, was the whole concept of school funding. I think another one, depending on where your background is dealing with sunshine law and how, in a transparent and open fishbowl, as you might say, as a school board, there's things that you have to understand with respect to sunshine law, things like that. But a lot of it is just the learning process.
Mm-hmm. The fact that you're a public official as a school board member, and you have to operate mostly in public, don't you?
You are an elected official, and you do represent those people that elected you. And so absolutely, everything you do is in very much in a fishbowl and transparent.
We talked about the 16-hour training requirement, Jerry, for the newly elected board members. Do you think it's important for candidates, should they be elected, to get that training quickly?
Oh, as early as they can. The quicker you can get that learning curve kind of leveled out, the more effective you're going to be as a board member. I mean, you learn the things about the nuances of finance and sunshine law, collective bargaining, and just the whole board governance model. So the quicker you can get that done, the better you will be from the standpoint of an effective board member.
Mm-hmm. Carter, if you could boil it down, what would you say is the fundamental job of a Board of Education as opposed to the administration?
Governance, that is the word, and what we mean by governance is the Board of Education is responsible for establishing, adopting the policies that guide all the activities of the district. And in that governance capacity, if you get that piece right, hiring the superintendent of schools, your chief executive officer, the sole employee of the board, those are two enormous responsibilities, and even though you can say them succinctly, they're very broad in their responsibility and the work that's involved in doing that.
So you leave the day-to-day management of the district up to your professionals that you hire, is that right?
Absolutely. That's why we hire staff, and particularly the superintendent of schools as the chief executive officer of that board. And it is his or her responsibility to manage, administer the school district. And the board consequently then holds him or her responsible for the day-to-day operations of the district.
Mm-hmm. Jerry, some of our candidates may think the main job of a school board member is to attend a meeting once a month. Is there more to it than that?
Oh yeah, attending the meetings is a ways down the list as far as responsibilities. When you're talking about being an advocate for your district or being an advocate for your kids in your district, responsibility, the learning curve of the learning of the issues of public education. That's outside the board meetings. I mean, board meetings are very much government. I mean, that's taking action, but getting to that point, there's a significant amount of responsibility that you have of being knowledgeable about your district, knowledgeable about public education, what's going on in your district, liaison with your community, being that community involvement and being visible with the community, being accessible, being approachable for the people in your community that you are an elected official. So attending meetings is just one of those formalities that goes with it. There's a lot more to it than that.
Could you talk a little bit more about being that connection between the school district and the community, and hopefully reflecting the community's values as a school board member? How do you do that?
Talking and listening a lot to the community. Being, as I said, visible out there in the community, being accessible. We were elected by the community. So, we have a responsibility, well, it's not even responsibility, it's an obligation to our community to hopefully take the values and the desires and the vision of the community back to the district as that liaison, that connection to the community itself. And that's what we do. That's the role of one of the roles of the board, is being the liaison to the community.
Mm-hmm. So when you're out in the community, Jerry, as a board member, you probably have individuals come up to you with questions, perhaps even related to their own children in the school district, maybe some very specific issues. As a board member, how do you handle those situations?
That happens frequently. And there's a role as a board member from a policy making and a governance model. Listen, take note of what's being said, but I can't solve the problem. As a board member, that's not my role as a board member. One, I don't know anything about the situation. I want to know what the solution might be. So to me, as a role as a board member, when I get those kind of calls or questions, is my role is to find the spot with the person who can help them. I can't promise I'll solve it. I can't promise it'll be the answer that they're wanting. But the one thing I can assure them is there will be a connection to the district for somebody to respond to their issue. And I think that's an important thing from my standpoint, is to be that connection with the customer, the parent, or whoever it might be, to get them and be the facilitator to get some resolution or some action.
Carter, a little earlier you said an interesting thing. You said that the superintendent is the board's sole employee. Can you talk about that a little bit more and the board's relationship to the professional staff and other personnel within the school district? What should that relationship be?
Well, Brent, it's about accountability and it's about alignment of responsibilities and duties. It's about the board being able to hold an individual accountable for what goes on in the district. And oftentimes problems develop if the board starts becoming supervisory in what they perceive as their responsibility of staff, which it is not. And obviously the lines and the demarcations of what boards do as compared to what chief executive officers do becomes blurred. And it fosters all kinds of issues typically and has the potential of doing that and creating confusion among who's reporting to who, to make it very simple. And clearly every school district has an organizational chart and there is a plan, if you will, for administering the programs, the instructional program of that district. And those structures need to be recognized, they need to be understood, and then they need to be applied.
Jerry, can you talk about that a little bit more, your relationship with the professional staff? As a board, you don't supervise them, but that doesn't mean you don't talk to them some. You have some relationship there.
Yeah, I think one of the terms we kind of use in our district is not getting into the weeds of the day-to-day operation to the district. And that doesn't mean we don't look in them every once in a while. That doesn't mean we don't have questions or concerns and want answers to questions that we might have. And so having that open dialogue with the staff, but that strictly is informational, not supervisory type. And so, as Carter said, that's a fine line that you don't want to get blurred, that we stay at the strategic policy level and don't get into the day-to-day with the employees. But that doesn't mean you don't acknowledge the fact that you've got them. They're important people in your district. They are the knowledgeable experts on issues, so you have to have a good professional relationship with them so you can get questions answered.
What advice would you have, Jerry, for our candidates right now before they're elected as far as getting themselves familiarized with their local school district? Should they be attending meetings, for example?
Go to the board meetings. First and foremost, go to the board meetings. I would encourage them to set up a meeting with the superintendent and just talk about some of the issues that are ahead for their district. Talk to other board members that's on the board. I mean, you're going to be one of 7 working with them on a day-to-day basis. I think it's a good idea to sit down with them and just kind of, what am I getting into? What issues do you see from the board table? But now's the time to start making the connection, being visible with the board, and when things and functions occur with the district, being there. That's how you get knowledgeable about the issues.
And Carter, obviously school board members have important responsibilities in their community, but we like to say that they have responsibilities beyond their community, don't they? Even at the state and national level as far as public education is concerned.
Absolutely. Excellent point, Brent. Local boards, we need to understand that local boards were created by the General Assembly, in this case in the state of Missouri. There was not some magical formula that came down from the sky that said we're going to have school boards. There's specific legislation that creates and provides for local communities to elect people, their citizenry, to serve on these boards of education. Consequently, there's a whole book of law that pertains to the public schools. So it is a state function that is exercised in terms of deploying that at the local level. Because of that, what happens in Jefferson City and what happens in Washington, D.C. strongly impacts and influences what we can do and what we are allowed to do, if you will, at the local level. Consequently, if, as a school board member, and we're interested in good public policy for educational purposes, that is the improvement of opportunities for boys and girls, then it is incumbent that every school board member be knowledgeable, be engaged, be informed about issues that are arising within state government or at the federal level, and collectively across this country at the federal level. We are about trying to protect, advance good public policy for K-12 kids. In Missouri, we're doing the same thing, and school board members are the advocate, if you will, for good public policy for children.
Jerry's local school boards often have to deal with some very difficult issues, and I'm sure you have over the years of your school board service, but have you found your school board service to be rewarding overall?
Incredibly rewarding. Almost, I don't say fun, but it is dealing with, the kids. And one thing I like about school board service is everybody pretty much has the same vision to do what's best for kids. And that's what's enjoyable about working with other board members, networking with other board members. The vision's pretty much the same. Everybody may have a different approach to it sometimes, but we're all in it for the kids, and it's all about the kids. And when you got that kind of vision and you've got 3,500 board members across the state that are all looking out for what's best, it's really an enjoyable process to try to work through those, even when it's difficult times and with legislature or whatever. As long as we stay focused on the kids, it makes it a really, really enjoyable time.
And school board members are not alone in this effort, Jerry. There are support organizations and other support mechanisms out there for school board members, aren't there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at MSBA, you look at NSBA, the national. As Carter mentioned before about being involved, it's not just important; it's critical that we be informed, because that's one of our opportunities to be informed about issues. We can't know everything. We can't be up to speed on everything. So we got to rely on other outside groups to help us sift through the weeds, so to speak, or the swamp that we've got to get through. And not only does it do that, but it also provides an opportunity to network with other board members who have common issues. I mean, you talk to other board members and you go, yeah, I got that problem in our district too. How did you guys deal with that? And that networking opportunity is really critical as you try to continually improve your district and improve the education process for your kids.
All right, Jerry Lee, Carter Ward, thanks a lot for being with us and sharing your insights on school board service.
Thank you, Brent.